What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Jess Marshall Podcast. This week, we are in for it. Corey Thompson, Roughneck to Real Estate, is here on the podcast, and we're going to talk oil and gas, of course. We're going to talk about energy independence. Also going to talk about how he got to where he got and where he came from. Get prepared to have your ass kicked. Fuck your excuses. One of his favorite sayings. I hope you enjoy the podcast. I think you will. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jess Marshall Podcast. Wow. Mark that swipe. Bring it.
You worked in the oil field, I guess?
I did not. No.
Well,
no, I'm just construction and rugby guy.
So I went into the oil field, so they didn't train you. They just kind of
throw you at it.
You just walk out there and I worked with my family, so these were underwhelming men in my life, right? So I walked out of a high school weight room after a state championship run at powerlifting, walked out to these men that I looked up to in my life, but they were underwhelming men. In other words, they weren't physically imposing.
I got you.
And so you're just throwing around 200 pounds of iron, just here, there, everywhere. Right. And I'm physically stronger than everybody out there, but I don't know how to make the iron do what they can make it do.
Sure.
Just running a pipe wrench would wear me out. And you're like your 50-year-old uncle that's just tiny.
He knows angles.
He knows how to make the equipment work smarter, not harder. So sitting about there, and it's like they don't train you. They just watch you bust your knuckles.
Yes.
They watch you, damn near lose a finger.
Until you watch them and learn from them.
And that's how you learn. And so now it's like with training, I'm like, what would you have me do? I'm in here working with you today. I got better at training. I got better at seeking out training. And then once I got better at seeking out training, I got better at training my staff. But I still can't train the motivational part of it. I can't make somebody want to make.
I don't know if anyone can.
$2,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I don't know if anyone can train that into people.
But I found, and this is something do you find that whenever you hire somebody, you hire them out, that there's a threshold of money that you get to where they're not going to show up?
There's a weird deal where I'll ask somebody like, hey, what motivates you?
Right.
Final interview is with me.
Yeah.
And if the first words out of their mouth are not money, then I just get up and leave the room. I don't even finish the interview because what's the point here? If I have to pat you on the back, if I have to applaud you, if you need a blue ribbon every time you meet your sales quota, let's just not even start this bullshit dance because.
Do you ever ask them how much money?
I've gotten detailed about that because if they do say money, I say, well, how much would make you happy? And then if I hear a big number, well, then I'm obviously happy about that.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't know, though. Well, if I could crack 6 figures, I'm like, you can't even fucking raise a family on 6 figures. What are you talking about? Crack 6 figures.
See, and
what
I'm
about
like,
you? What's your threshold there?
I just find that if you don't ask, if you don't get that number, you'll live in the mystery of. We hired a girl during right before COVID kicked off. We hired a girl, 19 years old, trained her. She was very, very good at her job, and she was making $8 an hour. So $8 an hour, no, $10 an hour, $10 an hour. And she showed up. She showed up diligently. She showed up on time. She did such a good job. And so, she was doing a good job. We just kept giving her more tasks. She kept getting better. And this is for marketing, for leads. And
Sure.
we're making 30, 40, 50 grand off of stuff that she's turning up, and she's making $10 an hour. So I was like, well, let's bonus her. Wrote her a $500 bonus, at the end of the week. Hey, this deal's going to work out good. Here's a $500 bonus. She didn't show up the next week.
Yeah. That's a really weird thing, how there's not this long-term vision.
She's like, I just made $100 more than I would have made if I worked the whole week.
$100.
$100 more than what I would have made if I'd have showed up and worked the week. So I'm going to take the week off.
Did you fire her?
No, it was COVID. So it was we were in for all the EIDL and all the goodies. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't fire nobody during that time period. You just could fire. And then we all went to work from home. We were working from home then, and no, she got pregnant. And she fired herself. She just essentially, whenever we came back to the office, she's like, I don't want to come back to the office. And we're like, we already hired another person. You know what I mean? We have an additional staff from the time that, that all this happened, so we could let you go.
What are all the people? So you go to Cracker Barrel, they're closed. 2-3 days a week and got like half the restaurant open, right? Or 54th or Chili's or whatever. So what's everyone doing? Because there's no stimulus, there's no crypto's in the it's where it should be.
I think it's OnlyFans.
So everyone is doing is either.
I know. I think it's some form of OnlyFans. I literally think the way that people get entertainment now is so spread out.
Yeah.
Like the people that are going to watch this. Thank you, people that watch this.
Yes, thank you, people.
They get this form of entertainment. So we're not getting paid to do this on the intern.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But people get entertainment from it. They get value from it, and then they go out and figure out, well, how do I make money? How do I make money? And it don't have to be a lot of money. That's the thing. You are correct that if you're making six figures, you're probably not going to be able to raise a family, but people aren't raising families.
They're not raising families.
And
I think overall acceptable standard of living has lessened too. Like we don't need 2 cars. We don't need a gym membership. Like COVID taught that to a lot of people. I think there was a lot of waste. How about let's go through and audit all the apps we're using? Are we even using half these apps?
I did that the very first day of COVID.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I don't know what my subscriptions are. Wow, I got a lot of stuff. And I got rid of it, not because I thought I was going to get laid off, but just because I seen somebody else do it on the internet. They're like, hey, go do this. Here's where you can find that on an iPhone. I'm like, that's so convenient.
Well, so I'm all about it. If people are hustling and they're making a living,
I think
they're just figuring out a way.
When I was younger and I worked in the oil field, I was rich. And when I mean rich, I mean I could not spend the amount of money I made and the amount of time I had off. So when you can't do that and you got everything you want, you got Xbox, you got girlfriends, you got a boat, you got a jet ski, guns, whatever. Yeah. And you get a limited amount of time off and you can't spend all the money you have. So you go back to work with money still in the bank account and you go earn that living again. And it happens again. I just think back to that time and I'm like, we lived 7 people in a 3-bedroom house. Wow. We slept on couches and futons and wherever we could sleep. All I did was pay the electric bill so I could leave the AC on 60. So anytime I came in, it was cold, and we lived like that. And not that it's a bad way to live, but I don't know how kids are living these days, but I'm guessing they have the same thing, a little less ambitious, and a lot more of what we had to leave the house to do, they can do at home. In other words, if I wanted to go play Xbox with my friends, I had to get in the car and go meet my friends. They can stay at home and do it, and home could be something the size of the studio. You get what I mean?
It's a great perspective. Now, cocaine's more expensive than it used to be, so
probably
that's got to have something to do with things.
But think about the convenience of, like, if I wanted to go get Whataburger, I had to get in my car and drive to Whataburger.
Now you got a fucking app.
My babysitter, 14 years old, my daughter's 8. They spent $127 on DoorDash in 3 hours.
Bro,
I was like, that first DoorDash had to be the weed man. Had to be, like, it's just got to be, like. And I was like, what? I'd never used DoorDash. I don't know what it costs. Right. I was like, what did we get for $127? They're like, Whataburger, some suntan lotion, I think some milk was delivered. They got donuts, like all separate orders, of course. They couldn't just like, hey, bring me all this stuff. They were just like, you know what would be good with these donuts? What about some milk? We got any milk? No, let's get some then. It's like a $9 carton of milk delivered to the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But before you had to leave the premises. Now those people at DoorDash, I don't know what they make, but obviously it's enough to buy fuel. You know what I mean? Obviously it's enough to make a living. Uber, other people drive around. I don't know how that works out. I think the taxis had it before. They had the marketing, they had the presence, they had the you knew if you needed to get somewhere, you called a cab, but the cab experience was terrible. You rode an uncomfortable seat. It smelled bad. With Uber, those things happen, but maybe you get a good Uber driver that doesn't smell bad and has a comfortable seat. It's potluck, but I don't know, man. I think about the same thing. I'm like, I think OnlyFans type, subscription services.
Everyone's
DoorDash,
hustling. Everyone's trying to do ambassador type, referral type deals on the social media.
MLM on not steroids, because it's not MLM, it's not selling, but it's just referral fees. My sister takes surveys on the internet and gets paid. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I don't know where that happens at. I don't look for that. That's not, you know what I mean? It can't be a lot of money, but if they pay you $20 to take a survey and you know where the getting spot is for survey taking, You can knock down $200 in a day, not a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's more opportunity out there to sit on your butt and make money, or whatever they sit on OnlyFans. You know what I mean? And I really think that when people had to go home and do that, they said, "Hey, what can I do?" And it made them explore. I think this recession, whatever that is, when it gets here and layoffs actually happen, on our side, real estate investing, it's going to drive more people into the marketplace. I only found out about real estate investing because I had a pain in my life. I had a life-changing event that was a layoff. So I started looking for answers for that $30,000 a month hole in my life that was losing my job. And I found real estate. I think more people will find real estate when that happens to them. I think they'll discover wealth building principles of owning real estate and all the different things that we've discovered on our journey. I think, in good times, people don't start that journey. In bad times, they have to start that journey or they starve to death. So I think more people will be finding it. I know you own a construction business, but, entrepreneurial spirit is in everybody if you get them down to their last dime.
Yes. Supposedly. Yeah, there's still
will. Unless you just I was looking at a property down in Bastrop, Texas, and it crosses the Colorado River. So no, it was New Braunfels. Not New Braunfels, San Marcos. Anyways, so it crosses the San Marcos River there, and there's a bridge, and there's the Walmart, and I was getting fuel, and there's a homeless lady, just sitting there on the sidewalks. And I noticed her, and there's a homeless guy, and he's got a bicycle. And I'm like, okay, this is a different part of the world. I don't have homeless people where I live. I'll never see them. And then there's like a homeless encampment walking out from underneath the bridge. 3 or 4 people coming from underneath the bridge. I'm just sitting there waiting for my truck to fill up. And I'm looking, and this guy's got a trash bag, but it's clear. So I could see through it to the contents of the bag. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, damn. I was like, homie, don't have anything. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at the contents. I'm like, he's got old pizza boxes. You know what I mean? He's got this, he's got that. And I'm just looking at it as he walks, and he walks in front of my truck and goes to the dumpster and throws the bag away and then walks back down into his homeless encampment. And I sitting there thinking, I need to follow that guy back down in there. And I even told Braxton whenever I was there, I was like, we need to go hire that guy. He's like, why? I'm like, all the dude's got is whatever's under that bridge, and he's keeping it clean. You know what I mean? He's down there.
Yeah.
He took the effort to get the trash bag. He's got a dog, that trash bag, and pride enough to clean up wherever he's going to live. We should go try to hire that guy. And so it's like, how would you approach that person? How would you approach that person that's down there last time but taking pride in where they live and what they do have going for them, which is shade under that bridge? And I was like, man, I don't want to walk down there. And Braxton's like, why? I'm like, man, maybe it's like a homeless orgy. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of ugly women. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a damn good time down there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now I don't want to work anymore. I just want to be in the homeless orgy village. Where the guy that is like the king masculine dude is a dude with the cleanest area. And so he's just doing he just cleaned up his area so he could get laid today. You know what I mean? What if I find out some stuff I don't want to know?
It's like some post-apocalyptic movie down there.
Yeah, like you know what I mean?
Book of Eli.
I just go down there, and all of a sudden, you know what I mean? I'm like tempted by the fruits of the homeless labor, and I'm just wanting to live under a bridge then. Like, it might go south for me. He might sell me.
I don't think you're going to want to live under a bridge if you were paying for the AC just so you could keep that bitch on 60.
Maybe, but what if it's a really good time down there? Like, what if that simplistic life, like they got like a garden, they're just, you know what I mean? Like, we got this vision of it being bad, but then we get down there and it's Eden. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Like,
it's Nirvana. Yeah. Like, it's like Will Ferrell in Old School. Maybe it's something we don't even know about.
That's right. I mean, I don't even know.
When did you get laid off to where you found this real estate opportunity?
2015. I actually asked to get laid off. I had a 1.5-year-old daughter. She was born in November. So she turned 1 in November. So it was April or March of 2015. There was a lot of stress at work, people were stressing out. One mistake was going to get you fired. I was like, I can't operate in these parameters. We're all going to get fired. You know what I mean? Oil was, OPEC announced that, Thanksgiving, oddly enough, that they were going to not cut production, that they were going to pump as much oil as they could pump and sell it. And the market cratered. It went from $90 oil to $30 oil. and everybody got really efficient. Now, I look at that and I was like, I'm a 30-year-old consultant, made it high up the food chain. I could go down, I could get demoted and go down and work, and I'll always be able to get those jobs. I can get those jobs anytime I want those jobs will be there. All I have to do is fill out an application, pass a drug test, have a functioning body, and I can go get a job. So I wasn't worried about that, but I was like, I don't want to be here in this high stress situation. I've got some money saved up. I've got some stuff paid off. Everybody seems worried about it. I just told my boss, I was like, if this is what work's going to be like, just send me home. And when things get better again, call me back. I got some things I can work on at the house. And then it didn't happen that way. I got home. I realized I had way too much free time. I was trying to conserve, and you cannot conserve your way to wealth. You know what I mean? That principal that I had in the bank and that equity I had on that property, and the one property I had that was paid for that my dad lived at, which was his house, I paid it off. I was just like, eating on that principal every single month.
So you're saying Dave Ramsey's full of shit?
I don't know. I don't know Dave Ramsey's principles, but I do know this. Like, if you spend that principal, if you eat into that principal. Now I look at what I had, and I could have invested everything that I had and all the equity that I had. If I would have invested it, it would have got me about $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. And I promise you, I could make it on $60,000 a year from what I did, in the coming months, which was sell everything and invest it, but I didn't know how to invest it. So it's like you end up with $500,000 in a business. You know what I mean? You just look up and you got $500,000 sank into a business, and the business still ain't making money. You're like, is this the path? Well, I don't know. You got to keep going now, though. You at least figured a few things out that make money. Keep doing more of that.
Yeah.
And dig yourself out. And that took us all the way through really about time COVID hit was the wake up call that we needed, because we were trying to make sense of, doing 20 deals a year, and how do you pick the best 20 deals to do and be picky and choosy. Like, I got a little crystal ball and I know how the market's going to respond to a deal I have, and throwing a lot of stuff away to basically doing that and just saying, okay, if it will rent for 2% of purchase price, we buy it. And if it doesn't sell, we rent it. And we're just doing that as many times as we can in between now and the end of the world. And we've done that now for 2 years through COVID. And people left the marketplace. They got scared. Their money got scared. So we went from having about $5 million in private capital to having over $10 million in private capital. We still press today. I mean, this morning at 7:00, I put it in my Facebook group. I got a text message, 2 more people bringing money in, another 300,000, another 100,000, and another mystery amount of money that we'll find out about on Friday, of people wanting to put money into real estate. And the way that we do it, we're not syndicators. We don't share equity. We structure it as debt. So they loan us the money. They're secured on the real estate. We go buy the real estate. We try to sell it. If it doesn't sell, we rent it out. They get paid. The tenant's making their payment for us, essentially. And then we go to a bank and refinance it. When banks stop lending, when banks get nervous and start taking assets back and stop lending, it will create a new opportunity for us, because we'll be able to go to the banks to buy inventory now, and they will do the financing on that. That's how I bought my original first house, was the bank financed it to me at 4% interest, because they didn't want that asset on their books. When that happens and banks are taking back assets, they get restricted on how much they can lend, but they have to get the assets off their book. They're only going to hand those assets to people that can operate them. And by operate them, I mean put a tenant in there and collect rent. It's not a hard scenario. I see a lot of people, talking about this or talking about that. I'm like, guys, if you don't want to own a rental, you don't need to be in real estate during a recession. Because if you're flipping houses and tomorrow that house won't sell, and this is what happened to us in 2015, we had to put a tenant in place. The problem was we didn't see the value in that till 4 years later. It took us 4 years to go, you know what? All the ones that we rented out along the way pay our bills every single month. Why don't we just do that? And then we got into an extremely hot real estate market where it made sense to just sell everything, because when it's sunshine, you make hay. You just sell it, get the money. And we got this awesome tax return this year. I think we made $1.5 million last year or something. And that's a phenomenal tax return to leverage with the banks this year. So this year, the banks look at last year's $1.5 million and they're like, oh, these guys make a lot of money.
Sure. when everybody was getting afraid when COVID first made its entree, and everyone starts pulling out of the market, but you're going heavy into it. Why weren't you afraid? Because you had this experience to bank on from 2015, and you knew you could survive, and you knew shit that was going to come at you was something you could figure out, or
called the lenders, called our private money. We called everybody that had money in our business and said, "Will you need your money back? Do you need your money back? What, you know what I mean?" And they just play at a different level. They're just, they got $2 million liquid that they letting you borrow. And you call them and ask them, "Hey, are you going to need this money back?" And they go, "What? What do you mean? Why are you trying to pay me off?" You're like, "Bro, the world's ending over here."
Right.
They're like, "Yeah, I wouldn't have gave you money I needed." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you realize we're not on the same, like that's a small person in actual true wealth. That's $2 million. Sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people, but and it's a lot of money to them, but they don't need it. That's their disposable income that they handed you to get a return on. They don't want it back. They don't need it back. They don't roll in that same manner. Once you've made that money, once you've got $10 million liquid that you can loan out to people, right? That you can just hand over and say, "Hey, pay me every month. If it goes bad, I'll take the asset back and I'll work with that tenant." You're like, okay, these people are on a different level. So none of them wanted their money back. And since none of them wanted their money back, even though at that time if you read anybody's post, they were taking time out. They didn't know what was going to happen. They were taking time off. They're going to go back and reflect with their friends and family and do all these sorts of things. And the only thing I was like, well, if they're not going to try to do anything, then nobody's going to be in the marketplace. So we'll be the only ones in the marketplace. And since there's all this noise about the world ending, that means the sellers are also going to think the world's ending. So they're going to be selling at a discount. It just made sense in my mind that if I had money to deploy and the opportunity was going to be there, to go take advantage of the opportunity. Because if you rent it out, in the big scheme of things, the backstop is the tenant. It's the fact that we're willing to rent it out. There's no other backstop. It's rent or owner finance, depending on which one. And so we just went heavy into it, and the market squeezed down in a way that when COVID hit, people didn't want to sell. So getting inventory was harder. So since nobody wanted to sell, but everybody wanted to buy, and then interest rates went to like 2%.
Yeah.
So it was all of a sudden like gangbusters. And then inflation, everything else just lifted. I mean, I can't tell you how much money we made on the stuff that we own. We refinanced a property when that we couldn't sell for $60,000, that appraised for $150,000. We walked away with a $74,000 check during COVID on that refinance, like on a refinance. And if we'd have sold it the day that when we were flipping houses, we'd have made $10,000.
Yeah.
And at the time when we couldn't sell it, it felt bad. Now that a tenant's in there and has been in there for 7 years, it's like that tenant's paid nonstop. Now they're paying $1,500 a month. They started out at $800 a month. They're paying $1,500 a month. They're not struggling. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the method. This is how wealth is built. This is how to press. Right now, when I see people waiting for the crash, I've read these posts since 2015. If there's a crash, there's a crash. That's the new marketplace. Everything's at a discount, but it doesn't do anything to the stuff you already bought.
Right.
Stuff you already bought, you have debt on. If it's a big commercial deal and it's revisited, you might have to pay down some of that debt if it won't appraise. But, if you're not over leveraged, you don't ever have to worry about that. It's like inflation wiped out our debt, essentially made it basically valueless compared to what it's worth. If markets have appreciated 20% a year for 2 years, that's 40% extra value on the real estate you already owned. You're telling me that if that got erased, that 2 years ago economy wasn't good enough for you? That's what you're saying. Like 2 years ago, you weren't making money. How does that work? That's 2019, 2020.
Right.
That's when it was gangbusters. That's pre-COVID.
Yeah.
If it goes back to that, you're telling me you're busted? How does that work?
So now that you have a deeper understanding, at least a clearer understanding about how to build wealth, why do you think it's so unclear to most Americans how money works?
They don't have access to capital, and they don't have access to people that have capital. So when you're going into the convenience store and there's a nice lady there, she's a nice lady. You'll see her every day. She'll be there every day. The tolerance for ambiguity, the tolerance for the unknown to go out and try to figure it out creates too much anxiety. It's safe to come in there every day and work for $15 an hour, get a paycheck every week, and do it again next week and make sense of whatever amount of money that is and just do the best you can. Feels safer, right? If they understood money and they understood how there's no shortage of money or shortage of opportunity, you know, they would more people would take the plunge. I don't know that it's for everybody though. You know, I mean, I work with people every day and it's not for them. They're good employees. They're the best employees. Like, they are really good people. And I'm like, dude, you should buy one of these. You already deal with our tenants. Buy a rent house. Deal with your own tenants. They're like, no, I don't want to. Not interested. I'm like, you know, so it's like, and I'm not mad at that. It's not my job to sell them on that, but what they do, they're really good at, and they enjoy it. So they're going to show up to it every day. I just don't think I don't think it's a lack of knowledge of money, because even if, you know, I think it's a lack of access to people with massive amounts of money, lack of access, but I don't think it's like, I don't value money. I don't want more money. I think all of those things they still want.
They got a comfort level and they're fine just living in that comfort level.
That comfort level, but that's also the upper middle class. You want to see the biggest meltdowns on planet Earth? Go into the upper middle class, suburban white communities, lily white communities, and watch a dude that was making $500,000 a year lose his job. Watch how his wife will treat him. Watch how every single thing about that, because that's the only identity. Watch what happens to that family. They're around all the right people. They should want to do better, but they can't. It would be harder for them to pivot than if you took me in the middle of the trailer hood and gave me one teenage kid. You know what I mean? That's out there wanting to mow the grass for extra money. He could do better in an adverse economy than the guy that makes $500,000, because he's so comfortable. He's so numb to the world's problems that whenever the world's problems finally do make it to his doorstep, he's like, wait, people do this every day.
Punch.
Yeah, like I can't, I don't even feel like doing this. Yeah. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. Where this kid's like, you know, what's worse is going to happen to me? I got to go back to mowing grass. I done mowed grass before.
I got to sweat to make some money.
Like, you know what I mean?
Fucking concept.
Yeah, that kid will do better in the long run in an adverse economy, because, I mean, those upper middle class people that you would think have it figured out, that will be on the internet telling you you're wrong for taking on too much debt or do this or that.
Too much risk, Corey.
Too much risk, but they got a personal residence that costs them, you know, carrying costs on it $7-8 grand a month, and you're like, you got a personal residence that carrying cost is $7-8 grand a month, and you're preaching to me about life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. I think my house has a couple $100,000 in equity. I don't own it. You know what I mean? Like, I live there. The company pays the electric. The company pays the water. We use the shop for all of our storage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a shop with me living in it. That's it.
Right.
And you know, we get to depreciate the whole thing. We get to write the whole thing off, and the carrying cost is irrelevant, because without all the trailers and equipment in the backyard, and without the high school kid being able to come over there and get a refrigerator out of the shop and all the storage, like, we wouldn't have a business, and I just happen to live there.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Like, I can't tell you, like, you know, that's the right answer, but I can tell you that's the trick to wealth. Like,
no doubt.
Like, knowing what that statement means, knowing that, you know, the place that I live is pre-tax, and the place that you live is most likely post-tax with an interest deduction.
Right.
And you're preaching to me about it. When I go to the Rangers game to enjoy time with my family, right?
Yeah.
We're there. My kids are there. Your kids are there. And we talk about business. And my banker's there. My lawyer's there. My accountant's there.
Yeah.
You get to know them. I get to know them. And at the end of it, we turn a receipt to the IRS. You paid to come. I paid to come. We all paid to come, but we turn in a receipt to the IRS and we call it a day.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we got the same amount of enjoyment out of that Rangers game, maybe even more than the people in the cheap seats that, you know, they paid all for that post-tax.
Absolutely.
That's knowledge about money. And then, you know, it's like I listen to Grant Cardone a lot, and it's like, if I can't write it off, I don't do it.
Sure.
You know, I want to go fishing. I like to fish. Okay. Guy puts up a fishing trip. It's a mindset retreat thing, and then there's deep sea fishing involved. I called him up. What's it cost? $2,900. Key West, Florida. Completely pre-tax. I'm going out there. I'm going to learn what this guy does in sales. I'm going to learn some tricks. We're going to get to know each other. I'm going to tell them what I do, try to get some more private money. We're going to go fishing. I'm going to get to catch fish, and I get to tag it all to the government.
Yeah.
And that's wealth building principles. As far as like rentals and stuff like that, I don't get into the bookkeeping a lot on it. I just know you get a lot of depreciation.
Absolutely.
We had $750,000 in depreciation last year. I did see that because it showed up as a negative, and I was like,
"The fuck? Oh,
yeah. Goddamn! Like, what happened?
Right.
What's this line mean? You know what I mean?" And it's like, that's depreciation. I was like, "Damn, that's good."
When you talk about pre-tax, and post-tax, can you just break down what you mean for viewers and listeners?
So, like, the way that the government works, and anybody, you got an employee, your W-2. They don't even trust you enough to give you the money on the front side. They get theirs first. They get theirs right out of where you're at. So you end up getting what's left over. They take theirs right from the jump, and you're left with the leftovers. The way ours works is we get paid. All that money sits in our bank. And then at the end of the year, we get told from our CPA what we owe the IRS. Okay. There's some tax laws that are changing, but this is not legal advice by any means. But pre-tax basically means that the purchase takes place before you pay taxes on the money. Post-tax means they took money out of yours, and if you're W-2, you don't get to write off a trip to the Rangers game. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So when we get paid, we got our money. We're looking at our tax bill, and we got a tax strategist in our CPA's office, and we're like, hey, we need this tractor. We have an old tractor. We want to trade that tractor in and get this new tractor. How's that look? And he's like, well, this and that. And then boom, you end up with $100,000 now that you get to depreciate year one, but you finance the tractor for 0% down. So you finance $30,000 in tax liability essentially through the purchase of the tractor. It's a write-off of $30,000 off of what we would have owed the IRS because we bought a tractor. That tractor, we then take it and we shred land with it. We tear down houses with it. We use it in our business. But the IRS incentivizes us to go buy that tractor. Now, everybody at that tractor dealership gets to eat, and you know what I mean? It's basically the IRS just keeping the money in motion by incentivizing you spending it. Later on, we might go eat. That's going to be a pre-tax meal. If you're a W-2, you're going to pay for that out of post-tax earnings. All that stuff. Since COVID, they moved it back up to 100% of you get to write off your meals 100% if you're talking business. But all that is conversation to have with your CPA, but that's the gist of it. When you're W-2,
you didn't go to college and get a financing degree, and you're not a CPA, and you just went out there and started figuring shit out by getting with people who might be smarter than you or might have the knowledge you don't have.
Look, I've made all those mistakes in a previous life. Now Jacob, my business partner, handles that. Our attorney recommended our CPA. We swapped CPAs this year, and having a tax strategist on your team throughout the year that's looking at your books and making that call. Because last year we were about in October, told you we made $1.5 million. About October when we were like, hey, we made a lot of money this year. We got a big tax liability coming up. How are we going to pay for that? And then it was like, you need some write-offs, and that's what made us mad at that CPA. He wouldn't tell us, hey, here's some things.
He wasn't looking down.
No,
range.
He was just like, you should have the money, and we're like, well, you know what I mean. We got some of it.
Doesn't sound right.
Yeah, so once we got this new CPA, he's like, here's how you structure your business. Here's how the money enters the bank. Here's how you divide that money. So we put 35%. Now there's overhead and everything else that comes out, but we put 35% into a tax account, and then we strategize with our CPA to get better write-offs before the end of the year, to where hopefully that 35% that we put in there whenever we, next April, when we know this is what you owe, you know what I mean? Hopefully, last year's taxes, it's pretty bad, but last year was like $80. they went back and recaptured a bunch of stuff from COVID that the other CPA missed, but I mean, $80. So
impressive.
That's and that's neither here nor there. You know what I mean? It's like, but that's the difference between having good people on your team, having good bookkeeping. Most businesses that you see on the internet couldn't bookkeep for their life. They're on the internet talking about selling this and selling that and selling that. And they're probably making a lot of money, and they might be paying the taxes on it, but most of them can't account for it any which way. You know what I mean? Like they don't talk about it enough. Like we're talking about it now. Like I ask them a question and I see that blank stare in their face, and
right.
I just know like you're
oh God,
you're in la la land. You know what I mean? Like you're living your life in a place where, yeah, you figured out the income part, but the next thing is retaining it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got so if you don't have that tax strategist on your team, you're going to end up in a weird spot. Me and Ryan were talking about it. Ryan's like, I had to get a new CPA. I'm like, yeah, everybody needs a tax strategist.
I did too. Mine's going to federal prison.
What?
So
you're
my CPA and his dad.
Really?
Yeah. Ran a Ponzi scheme.
That's
based
good.
out of Louisville for a while. It's fucking crazy. So we're wading through that. But you're figuring out the tax thing, but you've paid some experience tax, right? You've had to learn some tough, expensive motherfucking lessons.
Yes, but now I have a business partner that's really good at all that.
That's part of building a team, right?
It is, but me and him have been friends since he gave me a ride to football practice. I mean, Jacob does everything that I'm really bad at.
There you go. And you might do a lot of the things that he's really bad at.
A ton of them. Yeah. But that's the I don't want to say it's the magic, but like when I see people talking about partnerships, I'm like, look, I got friendships and they have became partners. When we started this journey, we didn't imagine we'd get here. I imagined I'd work a year in real estate, get a job in the oil field and go back. Once I got into real estate, having my kids with me, my daughter at the time, I've only had Jasper now 2 years, but my daughter at the time, I was like, I don't want to give this back. I don't want to, like at the time working in the oil field, being away from my daughter didn't bother me at all.
Your job's running your life at that point. Now you're running your own life.
But I wouldn't mind going back out there. Yeah. But I didn't want to leave it if I didn't have to. Sure. I was living in an RV on far less money, but I had my daughter there and we were kicking it every day. And, you know, as much as she needs me, I needed her at that time, but we just had it going on. Like, I mean, we just had a nice little simple life that we were building on. And as this thing started steamrolling, I was like, this is going to work out good. You know what I mean? You get over the hump in this, it's forever.
Yeah.
You don't go back.
Awesome.
You don't go back. You know what I mean? It's like once you're making $60,000 a month in rental income, you don't go back to anything else. You just keep building that up. In the oil field, there's a ceiling that I'm going to hit. I could be the CEO of Exxon, and I couldn't do that in the same amount of time that I could make what the CEO of Exxon makes in this business. Does that make sense? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it would take me a lifetime of work to become the CEO of Exxon. I'll be making CEO of Exxon wages in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
On one deal.
It's cool that you're back, or that you're able to spend, and that you still are able to spend that time with your daughter, and that you saw the value of that, right? Time's the one thing we can't get back. You can always make more money, but you got to miss some of those good old times with the good old boys out in the oil patch, just getting crazy on the weekends and the off days.
I used it up. I didn't my daughter came at the perfect time in my life.
Right.
Like
hangovers were starting to get old at that point.
I could I still drank when my daughter was born a little bit. But it was like I don't like parenting hungover.
Yeah. And
it wasn't stressful. It's just like, man, this is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all do it, good for y'all, you know what I mean? But I can't. It's just not a skill set I have. But no, I didn't. The things I miss about the oil field are camaraderie, teamwork, the accomplishment of being out in the elements, getting a job done that other people would have quit way before you.
How tough are roughnecks? We see it on movies all the time, and you might, if you're a gal, you may have dated one. You may have played rugby with 1 or 10, but how tough are roughnecks, man?
I mean, I got fired from a job, right, for fighting the third time at work. And we're not talking about a small fight. We're talking about just
throwdown,
like 3, 4. I mean, and they
weapons, hand tools,
whatever you get your hands on,
ladders,
but
broom handles.
it took 3 times to get fired.
That's how valuable you were.
Not really. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to go back now and see if it got soft like the whole rest of the world.
Yeah, no shit.
But back then, toughness was just part of it. You're working with iron. You're working in the heat. You're working in the hurricanes.
Especially if you're watching those old timers. Dude, those guys don't tap out.
It don't rain in the oil field. It rains on it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stop. Like hurricanes, Hurricane Rita's coming in. They got me taking lights like we got here out of the derrick that's 160 foot tall.
With a hurricane blowing.
With a hurricane coming in, I'm taking the lights down so the lights don't get broken. And I'm walking on an I-beam with a carabiner, risking my life to get a light down, tying the light to myself, going down one level, grabbing another light, tying as many of them to myself as I can, and then climbing down a ladder and delivering them to the ground and then going back up and getting more. That's what I was doing. Hurricane Rita hit at 2 a.m. At 6 that evening, I got off, drove in, hurricane hit. We got 1 day off, came back to the rig, got on a four-wheeler, rode it in, got the forklift, moved the trees out of the way, and we were back working. We couldn't even order fuel, so they got extra tanks out there. We had 40 or 50,000 gallons of fuel on location, so that 1 day would pass, and then you go back to work.
Boom, back at it.
And if our location, our proximity to the coast, we were in Woodville, Texas, hadn't have been so close, we wouldn't have shut down for Rita. Lightning, doesn't matter. Irrelevant. Like, They joke, but it is the truth. I've been on rigs when lightning strikes. You got a really big ground rod. That's what they say. You're drilling 15,000 feet down in the ground. You got a really deep ground rod. You're
mindset,
fine.
Mentality. What's the worst injury you ever saw in the oil patch?
Didn't see any injuries.
Really? No lost fingers, toes,
no.
nothing.
Safety was a good priority. Car wrecks were probably the worst thing that you saw. People getting tired, getting in wrecks on the way home. They train you a lot on. Don't put your fingers or your toes where you wouldn't put your dick or your nose.
Yeah.
A lot of colorful sayings out there, but we
just a few.
Dude, Ryan, I won't shit on this podcast.
You can do whatever you want.
No, man. I can't. I was like, we got to bring the F word back. He's like, fuck. I'm like, no, the other F word.
Oh yeah.
He's like, no.
That's a rough one.
I'm like, look, dude, that's in every movie I ever watched.
Yeah.
Every movie I ever watched, I was like, it's in every saying, but it's
there's a lot of movies that we watched and probably grew up on. I got a few years on you that could never get made today.
Dude, Old School. Go watch Old School today.
I just quoted it, and it's not makeable
Dude,
now.
When he gets in the cab and he's like, your seatbelt's broken, he's like, well, how about you quit being such a bang. I was like,
couldn't do that now.
You can't even quote it on the YouTubes or you'll get kicked off.
No, man. Soft times create hard men. Hard men create soft times.
I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with it. I mean, honestly, I Old School, The Hangover.
Oh.
Paging Doctor.
Yes.
And I'm like.
Couldn't do that now.
Couldn't do it. Can't have it anywhere. I was like, but.
There hasn't probably been a really good R-rated comedy since The Hangover. I heard Rogan talking about that with Tom Papa when I was driving to Colorado for spring break, and I was like, he's right.
Dude,
he said that new Nicolas Cage movie is supposed to be clutch though, funny as hell, whatever that thing's called. What? True Talent or a wasted talent. I haven't either.
Look into this comedian Shane Gillis. Go listen to his podcast.
Yeah.
My dude got kicked off of SNL before he ever got on there.
Oh, he was on. Yeah, he went on with Rogan too.
Yeah,
talking about that.
He is his podcast. It'll give you hope for humanity.
Well, Andrew Schulz had to buy his whole special back from Netflix because he was making abortion jokes that they didn't quite appreciate.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't named Netflix, but Netflix is the only outfit throwing a pile of money at comedy every month. And he said he cashed in his life savings, bought it back, and now he's going to distribute it on his own
YouTube,
on his own website. I don't think he can distribute some of those jokes that are going around on social media right now.
Good for all of them. But that goes back to like the OnlyFans, right? So what ends up happening is, and people don't realize this, these big companies are just giving up market share.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually the sentiment will swing back the other way, and the anti-woke crowd, they'll just be like anti-woke Netflix.
Yep.
Will lean into it.
Yep.
It will be extremely on the far other side, like of what, you know what I mean? The intent was it'll just be bonkers on what's being said and done on there, but people will buy it. People
Absolutely.
will go, hey, I'm going to go support this mainly because I want to hear good jokes again without, you know what I mean? Without the pushback.
Look, comedy is supposed to push the envelope, and it's supposed to, or it's probably not funny at all.
But it can, and it does.
Yeah.
If you're in a comedy club, you hear it.
Yep.
But they can't put it on the internet.
Nope. You go to Rogan now, they got to put your phone in a Faraday bag. Well, he's always done that. But when he was in Fort Worth in April, he's locking everything. And it was funny as fuck, man. It was the opposite of politically correct, and it was very refreshing. But it's, speaking of the pendulum swinging back, are we going to hit $10 a gallon gas anytime soon?
I hope so.
Why?
Well, because it'll let everybody know exactly what fuel brings to the table. Fuel brings a lot of stuff to the table. Your hat, this mic, that shirt, all petroleum. Everything in this room's petroleum. It's hard to get away from. You know what I mean? I hope it gets $10 a gallon, because then it'll make it where they'll be like, hey, you know what? Coal ain't that bad. We got the most abundance of coal in the world. We got the most coal in the world. We're going to ignore it and give up our national security, give up good, high-paying jobs in the name of climate change. And whether it's real, fake, irrelevant to me. You know what I mean? The big scheme of things, one volcano from 1980 did more pollution in the last 30 years. That's Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
So.
My sister was born that year, and I lived on the east side of that state.
Yeah.
And OSB came from that volcano, which was researched at my home university.
Yeah. Everything that people are trying to do, it's fine. There's solutions. But I don't know that a tractor's ever ran by a battery. 18-wheeler maybe. A combine, going to be really hard to get an efficient. Now, maybe they figure something else out. Maybe they get them running off of nuclear, definitely possible. But replacing hydrocarbons in our life will have to happen eventually. The technology will have to get there. But if they don't open up nuclear, all the rest of it's just for show. You know what I mean?
Isn't most of what's happened recently all for show, because it's all just been politically driven? No. Everything's being politicized all the time, everywhere.
Since I got laid off in the oil field, I've read hundreds of books, right? I worked on getting healthier mind, not healthier body. We're sponsored by Reese's. So, but anyways, I've worked on all of that. Right. And the they say it's political. That's what it'll go back to. Stuff used to be driven more by money, but it's still being driven by money. The problem is Main Street and Wall Street have detached themselves from each other so far, because now the feedback, if you think about it, in the last 10 years, where does feedback come from?
Social media.
Where did it used to come from? Somebody had to fill out a survey.
Yeah.
They had to actually go out and do market research.
A sensor might come to your door.
They had to do a little bit of.
They might call you.
Yeah, they need. However they got their information, they had to go do research. They had to pay for it. Now they pay some guy to read tweets or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe they do a Twitter poll. We see how real that is.
Yeah.
So with that,
44 billion are real.
Yeah,
obviously.
but like back in the day, it takes effort to complain. There'll always be more energy in the complaint than there will be in the pat on the back. That's life. But when they sent you a survey, if you did really truly have a good experience, you would tell about your good experience. If you had a meh experience, you would say, I had a meh experience. But if you had a really bad one, you would talk about it. But those middle ground people that were on good or bad never really spoke up. Now they just shoot it out. It's done. My opinion's on the internet. I think now the feedback is so far detached because the complaining is so loud, where they're trying to solve problems that don't exist. And when you try to solve problems that don't exist, you get employees, and this recession will weigh it out, where you hire somebody based on a box that they check that is a diversity of an inclusion box versus a box that they check that's add revenue to the company. You know what I mean? Well, who the hell is going to go home when it's time to send people home? They're not going to, the revenue is going to people that drive revenue are going to have jobs. And if they don't, the company's not going to get to continue. When they did all of this, when they made all of this wokeness or politicizing or whatever it is of all the corporations, I think they just detached themselves from the mainstream American. And those people vote with their dollars every single day. Buzz Lightyear, I have no idea about Buzz Lightyear. None whatsoever. I don't know about it. I didn't watch it. But I'm just assuming from the bitching on the internet that Buzz Lightyear is gay. I knew that when I was 10 years old. I don't know why it took y'all all this long to figure it out, man. Team Woody all the way. But now that it's out there, look at what happened with the box office numbers. You get what I mean? That's, parents. Like, am I going to not take my kid to Buzz Lightyear because of that? No, I don't give a damn. If Emery comes to me and is like, let's go watch Buzz Lightyear, I'm going to go watch, but I don't want to watch Buzz Lightyear. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I don't want to go watch it.
That's your prerogative.
Yeah. It's not because of any of that. It's just because it's like, that's something from my childhood. Maybe I want to go watch it. Maybe I don't want to go watch it, but I'm not going to make the extra effort because I don't want to, if it is going to make me mad, because I see a man kissing a man or whatever, it's probably not, you know what I mean? But I'm probably not going to be able to
give two fucks.
But I'm going to roast it on the internet and I'm going to lose my Facebook.
Yeah.
Not because I'm saying things funny, but because I would be funny about it. I would want to make a joke about it, and it's going to cost a cost that I can't do. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to avoid it. I'm just going to avoid it when I normally would have probably looked forward to it. But now that I can't talk about it.
Well, it gets slotted into the waste of time bucket, doesn't it?
It's going to be a waste of time. Like, I would enjoy watching this and having fun with it if we could have fun with it.
Right.
If I could go on the internet tomorrow and make a Buzz Lightyear joke that would go viral and offend some people and make other people laugh,
right,
I would do it.
So you said Main Street, Wall Street, big disconnect. Yes. I mean, that makes sense to me. Why, though, if everything is so profits driven, isn't this country completely energy independent? Doesn't that have something to do with politics?
No. Well, okay, back to the book reading. I went on a tangent because I started thinking about Buzz Lightyear being gay, and I wanted to be able to say that I knew that when he was 10 because that's the joke I want to make on the internet that I can't make now. Therefore, I won't spend the money because I can't talk about it. And if I can't talk about it, that's the problem. That's the problem. It's like if I make a joke and it's funny to some people and it offends others, right? Jokes are made to do that. And it costs you your social media tomorrow and you make money on social media. You can't have that conversation. No. So
the Buzz Lightyear joke is a good one. Sorry. It's a good one, but this is the only scene. It's like a split second of a lesbian couple having a kid.
Oh, it's lesbians the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you got a big letdown. So you didn't miss out on anything,
now I'm
bro.
gonna have to go see it. Normally I'd have to pay more for a lesbian scene than what it would cost.
You just perked up because it's lesbian. Okay.
Now I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Are you going to play the scene for us?
No,
let's have the scene.
But here's.
I don't want Corey to flip the table over.
No. I mean, look, I'm the only one here that's had a hand job from a transhuman
that you know of.
No. Oh, you've had?
I'm just saying. There's this studio is full of a lot of people. I mean, they're watching us next door. So
is the lady that farted on me?
I don't think so.
But oh man. So, anyways, what ends up happening with the profits first? I read all these books back in the day. T. Boone Pickens, you know who T. Boone Pickens is?
Yeah, God rest his soul.
First Billion is a hardest, great book. Go read it.
Yeah, it's a really good book.
You read it?
I have.
He predicted peak oil in 2007-8. Last time fuel prices got this high, he said we were at peak oil. Do you know the peak oil theory?
I mean, educate us because that's why you're here.
So the amount of oil that we found in the world, we will never find another barrel that we don't know about ever again. That's peak oil.
So we know how much there is, just like we know there's 21 Bitcoin, 21 million Bitcoin.
Yes.
All right.
Allegedly, we had achieved that in 2007. And fuel prices, diesel was $5 a gallon then. And therefore, since we could no longer find any more oil, we had to power the world on natural gas. Now, what did T. Boone Pickens make his money in?
You tell us.
Natural gas.
Yeah.
So why did he want us to switch over to natural gas?
Yeah.
Because he wanted us to go to natural gas. Now, he did mention that fracking, which we were 100 years away from being able to even be able to do or get oil out of rock and all this, we're 100 or 200 years away from being able to do it. At the very time he's saying that on that recording, the very time, there's a high school dropout, owns Continental Resources. Harold Hamm is his name. He's buying up in shell companies and fake companies that he's making. He's buying up all the leases in North Dakota. Because guess what my guy had figured out how to do?
How to fucking frack.
He had figured out how to frack, and Aubrey McClendon had figured out how to get natural gas out of rock. And these two individuals were leading oil and natural gas in the proven reserves that were already there. And T. Boone Pickens got it wrong. Now, but why was he trying to shift people to natural gas? Because he could make a lot of money in natural gas. So what did he need to do to lower the demand of natural gas? Windmills. My dude went heavy into windmills. He went full lib on windmills. And he had all those windmills up in Snyder, all that area. I don't know if you've been through there.
Yeah.
He's got all those windmills. And then he figured out what the rest of us know now, that one, the life cycle on them isn't that long.
Right.
And then you've got to dispose of the blades. And while it does make good energy and all this, and you can sell the energy, the cost of disposing of what's left over is an extreme burden.
So you're saying there's a carbon footprint there?
There's a carbon footprint. And if you drive through, I can't remember where that's at, a little bit south of Snyder, you'll see some windmills that are 20 years old, 30 years old. The original gangsters, they're rusted. Somebody's got to go paint those things. These have not been painted. Now, some of them are still turning. Some of them are broken and falling down. And they didn't put up the right bonds to be able to go take them off the land. So they're just there. The landowners have to deal with them. There's a problem on each side of every solution. Doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, doesn't matter. I would, windmills, solar, however we do it, we got to do it. It's going to happen. It's going to take place. And it's all going to make money, but it's all going to be money driven. It's not going to be, will it lessen one thing? Yeah, it will. But we're still going to have to go dig up half of Arizona or Nevada to bury the nuclear waste or the blades on the windmills. It's going to take diesel to drag them out there and throw them in the hole. They're going to have to figure out how to recycle them, put them in a chipper. I think they're fiberglass. I don't know what they're made of. They're going to have to figure that problem out.
Whenever a politician makes it sound like there's an easy answer to a complex question, they're full of shit as per the usual.
Yeah, but it's still money driven.
Right.
It's still money driven.
But politics is money driven.
It's all money driven, but it's going to have to make money for it to make an impact.
Right.
If it don't make money or get free money, if the government or somebody isn't going to incentivize it before it's time, before it's ready. Like, look at Tesla. I don't know anything about Tesla. I don't know if it made money ever. I don't know if it makes money now. The only thing I know now is that a Tesla can actually drive 300 or 400 miles. I think now they got one that's got a range of 400 miles on the highway. I watched the test of them, but I need to be able to drive 600 miles.
Right. Without stopping.
I can stop, but I got to be able to drive 600 miles in a day. And if I can't get that charge, if I can't get my 600 miles, I think they're almost there. And I would buy a Tesla. I'll buy a Tesla tomorrow if I can go 600 miles a day every day for a long time, because those are my average big days.
But the environmental argument about like fossil fuels and what they do to the environment, you already threw out the stat about Mount St. Helens in my home state. But what do we do to the environment, to the planet, when we go pull together all the minerals and everything that's needed to make a Tesla battery?
I don't know. And that's the part, because I can't get the information. I can see the windmills. I can take you to a place in Sweetwater, Texas. There's no doubt they're paying this dude. The landowner himself has a great deal going, but they're stacking windmill blades out there in Sweetwater, Texas on this dude's land, and probably just leasing the land from him for X number of dollars a month to store them there. What happens?
Bad blades. Obsolete blades. Just stacking up to the sky out there.
Just as many as they can put on his land, just stacking them in their full blades, and they're probably paying him a fee, and they're viable. That's a viable company that's paying the fee. what happens when that company goes bankrupt, goes through bankruptcy court, and that dude that's leasing his land, he's like, hey, I got a lease here. The guy's paying for my lease, this and that. They're like, yeah, too bad. There's no bond in place. If that farmer don't know how to go fight in the court system.
Explain the bond system. You've mentioned that a couple of times, just for the folks who aren't familiar.
Strip mines,
right.
Coal mines, back home. Big court battles taking place. There's a 400-foot deep hole in the ground that needs to be covered up. It's now full of water. At the bottom of that hole, it's a strip mine. So they dug a hole 400 foot deep. At the bottom of the hole is a 12-foot seam of coal. They were digging it and burning the coal in the coal power plant that's right next to it. And the coal got too expensive for them to buy from there. So when their contract was up, they said, we're not going to buy the coal from this mine. We're going to buy the coal from Wyoming. So they're training in coal from Wyoming that's somehow less expensive than the coal that comes from right next to the plant. So that coal mine is a viable company, right, at the time that this happens. But what happens when they can't sell any more coal? They're not viable anymore. So
the game is over.
The game's over. So what the government figured out a long time ago was that when a company goes unviable, okay, that there has to be an insurance policy in place to reclaim the land, the 400-foot deep hole, the equipment that's left out there, the work that has to be done to make that land, the last impact of land. Every other piece of land that they mined is in perfectly good condition, but when they were digging coal out the last day, that piece of land has to be reclaimed. So they put up a bond in $1980. Well, these are $2022.
Right.
That bond will not pay to get that hole back, that dirt back in that hole.
So what happens?
So they just file bankruptcy and walk away.
And nobody can take care of it because no one's going to throw money at something that doesn't make them money.
So it just sits there. So we could go out there today and fly a drone over this hole. Water looks great. I think we could get a jet ski in there with enough ingenuity. It's way down in the hole, the water, but that's in the water table as well. That's the shit part about it. So their water wells are 400 foot deep out there. The coal seam is both above and below the water table. So you could drill down to 700 foot water, 1200 foot water and get good water. But the 400 foot water that's there is now all bled into this coal seam. So you got hydrocarbons, whether or not it's messing up the water table. I mean, these are real environmental concerns, right? And there's no bond in place. Now, this is all after the fact, and they could point at it and go, coal's bad. Probably, but what's worse is the fact that bond won't cover it. On the windmills, same thing. If they don't put up a bond to take the windmills off the landowner's place when they're no longer viable or the company's no longer viable or whatever happens there, then what they end up with is a graveyard of windmills that can't be done. If they don't have the proper maintenance schedule in place where they're going to change out the blades every however many years, they're going to paint them however many years. I worked on a drilling rig. We painted that rig every job. Every single job, the hands will go out there and paint the rusted parts of the rig, busy work, whatever, but we maintain that equipment. We ran a grease gun around it every day. You got a windmill that's in the air. I very rarely see a dude up there with a grease gun. I know it's got parts that move. It's got bearings. It's got all of the things that it has to have to be a moving piece of equipment.
Including friction.
So somebody's servicing it. Somebody has to wash it. It has to be serviced. It has a maintenance cost. But what happens when it's no longer viable? When it's brand new, it's viable. When it's old, it's not viable. If I'm running a company, an LLC, whatever, I set it up. I put up a bond. Whatever that bond is in yesterday's dollars, not today's dollars. And a bond is exactly what you say it is. I mean, they probably sold it on the open market. People probably bought into it and got paid every deal for it. And then they call them the bond and boom, the bond's over. I don't know how that works. I don't know how any of it works. I just know that that's the system in place for, a lot of stuff, like a lot. And now that they're in bankruptcy court. Ultimately, a judge will get to decide if the bond has to pay. I mean, it's all a game of who has to do it. And ultimately, the Texas Railroad Commission will probably end up filling in the hole. I don't know that, but I do know if you go to, there's a lady that was running for Texas Railroad Commission. She got onto a pump jack. You know what a pump jack is, right? Mm-hmm. Topless for a campaign ad. So she won my vote. She didn't win though, I don't think.
You're
but if you go to her
ridiculous.
Twitter, she'll talk about that 400-foot deep hole that I've known about for a while because we own an RV park right next to it. So I'm
Wow.
like, I'm just banking on the day that people show up with their shovels ready to throw it in the dirt in the hole, because our RV park will be full for at least 5 years. Take 5 years to reclaim that properly. And right now they're not doing it. So
I'm on board with $10 a gallon gas if that'd get everybody's, refocused on the value of petroleum. Is all this bullshit though that's going on right now, this inflation, which we all know why there's inflation now, because free money got printed and handed out, all of that. But is the fact that diesel's what, $5.10, $5.15 a gallon?
it's down to 470 now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is this all Putin's fault?
No, there hasn't been a supply interruption. There hasn't been. This is speculation. This is the money. Where did the money that was in the stock market go? If you ask all these smart people you see on Facebook, they'll tell you it don't exist. I have an absolute idiot that sounds really smart on Facebook on my personal feed. And the reason why is this. Fractional reserve banking. If a bank has $1, they can loan it out 9 times.
Right.
Fractional reserve banking is actually how money is printed over time through debt. This is why whenever interest rates are low, money's actually being printed at the rate it can. But fractional reserve banking is a really good thing for the banks. They're regulated on how they can loan that money out, but it's a good thing. I mean, you pay a little bit of interest on a little bit of money, loan it out a bunch. But what happens when you own a property free and clear and I buy it with debt from the bank, right? You get real money, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
It gets wired to your bank account,
Yep.
goes into a different bank. That bank can then loan it out 10 times. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
But what happens whenever I go to a different bank and I refinance that property? Well, that money gets paid back to the bank that originally loaned me money.
Right.
And then they got to loan it out 10 times. You see how money was created out of thin air?
Mhm.
So it just keeps...
It's not real.
It is real, but what I'm telling you is...
It's ones and zeros just getting pushed
It's ones and
around.
zeros getting pushed around digitally, but it doesn't matter. It exists. It does not disappear. When that bank... I had a guy on the internet tell me when the bank gets paid off, the bank cannot have that money. I'm like...
What are you talking about?
I'm like, what are you talking about? They had to send the money to the guy I bought the property from. They had to wire him money.
Right.
So they got their money back. They have to get it back. He goes, yeah, but blah, blah, it just goes away. I'm like, it does not just go away. And that's the same thing with the $6 trillion that was printed. $6 trillion was printed. Did you get any EIDL money?
Mm-hmm.
I got some EIDL money. They told us how we could spend it and how we couldn't spend it and all this and that. So you know what we had to do with our EIDL money?
What's that?
We had to let it sit in the motherfucking bank
Mm.
because they wouldn't let us spend it. They said you couldn't, and then they loosened it up and we were able to pay off some bills. So we paid off some bills, but until then, we just had liquidity. Well, what's that money doing when it's sitting in the bank? Getting loaned out 10 times.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to.
Right.
Otherwise, when interest rates rise, so they go from paying a fraction of a percent to paying 3 or 4%, what does that mean the bank has to do? Their margins just got squeezed.
Yeah.
They now have
They
to
gotta
loan more money.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've got all the basics of fractional reserve banking out of the way and $6 trillion extra dollars in the economy, our new economy, by the way, this isn't the people want it to go. It's not going away. Don't worry about that. That's what a house costs. That's what gas costs. That's what beef costs. It's the new prices. So all of that being said, all that money has to be loaned out. Some people took some of that money and got it into the stock market. You know what I mean? So that money ends up in the stock market because money seeks yield. So they go to the stock market with it just because they need it somewhere so it can make a return. The stock market takes money. What do they do with it? So when I buy a Tesla stock, Tesla gets money, or the shareholder that was there gets money. What do they have to do with it? They have to take that money and make it make money. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It has to go someplace else. So money's constantly seeking yield. It's constantly seeking a return on investment.
Whether whoever you bought stocks and shares in is using those finances to improve their systems and process, buying new.
They have to go
machines.
hire somebody.
Right.
They have to buy a new machine. They have to.
They got to get more efficient.
They got to get more efficient. They have to. Money's constantly seeking yield. So when you have that much money chasing the limited goods and services, the prices go up. That's inflation. It's there. It exists. Okay. So when this war in Russia kicks off, right? Money seeking yield, a lot of money seeking yield. What did they all do? They placed a bet on a supply interruption of fuel. That hasn't took hold yet, but that's all it did. They just
Will it?
It could. If they fought the war right, they would. They'd just fucking take out Russia's oil field, and then they're handicapped, and that's over with. The rest of the world's in a real bad spot, but Russia's in a worse spot because they ain't got no money.
Right.
But they would just bomb that. They would just, boom, you ain't got no more oil fields. Done, son. What's next? Still want to fight? You ready to tap out?
Yeah, but everybody's over there playing grab ass. And
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The only reason why oil prices are high is because money seeks yield. And when money comes out of the stock market, when money comes out of the Russian stock market, when money comes out of all these places, it goes and it sits liquid in a bank. And the bank has to loan it out.
Yeah, that's their job.
That's their job,
Yeah.
or it's going to cost it. It's going to squeeze their yield because
Right.
interest rates are going up. So now they have to get it back out into
So
something.
you're saying banks don't go take out savings accounts? Banks invest.
They can,
loan.
but it's going to be sitting in another
Right.
bank. They're just going to keep investing.
So if the richest people in the world have debt and leverage debt and loan and create wealth through that system, then why wouldn't the average person do that? You explained that earlier because most people don't have that appetite for risk. They get comfortable. They're good to go.
But it's even worse than that. What I'm saying right now about the money in the oil, the reason why oil prices are high is because that's just where the money ended up that they thought they could get the best return. The reason why real estate shot up is because that's where they thought they could get the best return. The reason all these things have gone up in prices, labor, everything has gone up in price because that's where they thought they could get the most return. I pay a girl $18 an hour to do a job for me because I think it will make me $35 an hour to have her employed. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it out of the kindness of my heart. I did it because I needed a return on that $2,800 a month. You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's the only reason you do it.
Well, this isn't the Salvation Army.
No,
We're talking about capitalism. We're talking about economies and economies of scale.
All of these things, aside from each other, when you pull them out, it's like this recession that we're in, this weirdness that we're in. There's so much money in the marketplace. Never been like this before. They've never given it directly to consumers before. It's always gone into a kind of a we're going to go bail out this company, which is just paying off their debt.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not really, there's never really been a deal where they're like, hey, we're going to go give small businesses $2 million. Here you go. You qualify for it. $2 million. Easiest loan you ever got. 2.75% interest. Have what? And then, so what do you got to do with it? What are you going to do? What you got EIDL money? What were you able to spend it on?
Anything that would expand your ability to become more efficient and profitable.
And
Pretty
so-
ambiguous in
Yeah.
terms of like the definition of,
Yeah,
of
but-
exactly what you can do.
Exactly, but you had to spend it on
Yes.
certain things.
Not Bugattis,
Not
not a
Bugattis,
beach house,
not a beach
not
house.
strippers and cocaine like
the,
this guy.
The
in
most
Capel.
random thing ever is you
Yeah.
can pay mortgage payments with it for your rental properties,
Yeah.
but you can't buy air conditioners with it.
Right.
That was weird to me. I was
Yes,
like,
that's odd.
that's a weird way to
Well, that's
hamstring
people making laws that don't understand what exactly happens when the rubber meets the road. though, but-
So we ended
You
up,
don't strike me as the type of guy who hangs everything around the neck of the politicians and begs and pleads and complains his ass off about that shit. It's okay. These are the new rules.
These are
This
the
is
new
what's
rules.
happening, and you got to play the ref, right? You got to play. If the ref's calling late hits, you don't hit the quarterback late. If the ref ain't calling late hits and they hit your quarterback late, you're fucking putting their quarterback out the game.
and
That's how it
just
goes
like,
down.
This
Yeah.
right here, with the new money that's in the economy, it just made the price of everything more expensive. And everybody that's trying to stay in yesterday's market is really missing the point. The new hiring circumstances, the OnlyFans, whatever took over those cheaper workforce don't exist anymore.
Right.
They wanted a $15 an hour minimum wage. They got it now. They got it through inflation. They didn't get it through, they got it through inflation. They printed enough money that if you want somebody to show up, you're going to have to pay them $15 an hour. Well, the whole thing that Republicans were arguing about on $15 an hour minimum wage was it's going to make the cost of everything go up. Well, guess what? We just put the cart before the buggy, and now let's go. This is it.
Now it happened anyways.
It happened anyways. Now everybody makes $15 an hour. May as well make it a law.
And you're not going to put the horse back in the barn now.
You can't put
It's
the
over.
toothpaste back in the tube. This is just the new economy, right? The average house in America is $400,000. It would have to go to $300,000 for it to matter to you on a discount. If it happens, you got bigger problems than housing. You know what I mean? There's going to be 2 million people a year coming here. Abbott if you're listening, I know I saw Ryan with Abbott the other day. Quit busing them to Washington, D.C. Bus them to my local Home Depot. I'll pick them up, especially if they can do sheetrock. If these guys want to come get a job, let's hire them tomorrow. Let's get them working. I don't care, because at the end of the day, people aren't reading fast enough. Like, that's the real politics. People aren't reading fast enough. I got to have one more to level out. Ryan's 3 behind. You got to have 3 to count. How many kids you got?
I'm 3 behind then too,
You're
bro.
3 behind too. People aren't reading fast enough. They aren't beating replacement rate right now in today's world. They're playing more video games than you got dating apps. You can get anything you want to your door. Put a baby in somebody, for Christ's sakes. But that's just what the way it is.
Absolutely.
So immigration is going to be what grows the country.
Sure.
However you want to look at that, good or bad, doesn't matter. If you don't have people, you don't have a country. You need a country. And if people want to go to work, let's go to work. You know what I mean? I would take 20 people that want to go over to work than one American that's too entitled to
100%.
to show up. You know what I mean? It's like what
Well, for guys like you and me, you know, the immigration argument and all of that starts falling apart when I got to look at a bottom line, and I got a job to get done, and I look around at local resources and there aren't enough. So if we've got to deploy to get a job done, that's what the fuck we're going to do, because the job's got to get done.
Got to get done. Like, and they should just, I mean, it's just craziness to me. There's a book called Accidental Superpower. If you haven't read it, go read it.
Who wrote it?
Peter Zion.
Okay.
He just wrote a new book, or just came out with a new book. The End of the World is Just Beginning. It gets really depressing when you get into his older books, so I stay away from those. Disunited Nations is a follow-up to Accidental Superpower, but this right here is
The Next Generation of American Preeminence and the Coming Global Disorder.
He predicted Trump in 2016, but no, it was 2014 when that book was written. But either way, he predicted Trump, but he didn't say Trump. He just he didn't say Trump. He didn't say, hey, Donald Trump's going to be president. He just predicted that somebody like Trump would win.
An outlier, a disruptor.
And disruptor. And this, you know, he predicted Russia. He's predicted everything just based on the geography of the world. Really good book. You'll find it really interesting. But in there, he talks about the aging demography. And that was the one thing I didn't know about. The China, Japan, all these countries, they'll have to work till they're like 80 because it takes 20 years to create a 20-year-old. So they'll have to work till they're 80 to be able to pass the torch to enough workers to replace the boomers. They don't have the numbers to replace the boomers. So they're just going to have to work. Well, what's an 80-year-old army going to do on the world stage?
Get absolutely
Destroyed.
Flatlined. Yeah,
that's right.
100%.
And so the only countries in the world that are breeding faster than they're dying are Latin America, South America, Mexico, and the Muslim countries in the Middle East. The only countries in the world. Every other country in the world, Russia probably being the worst off of everybody, is just
not procreating in Russia.
Not procreating. Not procreating fast enough. Not procreating at all. So there's going to be a huge amount of people that are going to die off of the next 20 years that aren't going to be replaced, and it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth because they hold all the wealth right now. They got it's all in their IRAs and all in their retirements, and it's going to get passed down. It'll be good times for a little while, but there's going to be too much housing, too much yada, yada, yada. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
America's got the unique advantage of people wanting to live here from other places. So while it takes the rest of the world 20 years to produce a 20-year-old, America imports them and will continue to do that. That's why whenever you see politicians talking on TV about immigration, they're just pandering to a base to get elected until the electorate changes their views on.
Then they'll pander that new
thing. And that's all it is. It's just a game of cat and mouse, because you can believe that everybody that knows about the world, which is our politicians should be, know that the demography is aging and we're not replacing fast enough. And
the numbers don't lie there.
The math don't lie. So while they'll talk about, immigration reform, well, they don't really mean it. It's a welcome problem for them.
When you kind of forced your layoff and then thought you'd come back, but then started reading everything you could get your hands on, what lit that fire for you? That hey, I'm going to start reading and educating myself.
Grant Cardone. 10X Rule.
Yeah.
I was listening to it, driving back and forth to Second Flip, and it kind of reiterated something in me where I'd stopped. I'd hit a level that I was comfortable with and stopped. And even though it didn't feel good to stop, when I did stop, I lost all my fire and edge and everything that made me. I was just existing then, because it felt better to get along and maybe, you know what I mean, than whenever I was pushing the envelope and would get in fist fights and get fired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you call somebody
after
a
the
pussy.
third time. After
yeah,
the
you're
third
like,
time.
you're a fucking pussy. And you got to let them hands go. You know what I mean? So I quit that and tried to go with a more socially acceptable version and try to be friends with people, which is the worst, because then now they're going to.
Trying to be a little more corporate, maybe a little more political, if you will.
A little more political, and it didn't work out.
Right.
I would have got it. I would have advanced through the same ranks. I would have made it to a higher point in the food chain. I would have had a better situation. I would have been making $2,500 a day versus $1,700 a day. Everything. Had I stayed,
but a different level of comfort.
Not even comfort.
And you don't
had I
seem
stayed uncomfortable. Had I kept pushing.
Right.
Had I kept going to be the best. Had I kept wanting more out of life, then I would have got it.
But you still would have capped out at a certain level of comfort. You probably couldn't. You think you would have just kept right on
Had
going?
I listened to 10X Rule and still been in the oil field,
yes,
I would have stayed in the oil field and just until I had my own thing going.
Yeah.
And just I would still just be out there just sticking holes in the ground.
If you got to have a beer or a coffee or a green matcha or whatever with that guy in that lily white suburb who lost his $500,000 a year job, whose wife's slipping out, whose kids don't get to play select baseball, this, that, or the other, what book would you tell that guy, bro? Read this fucking book and pull your head out of your ass and let's go.
Book, the 10X Mentor.
Okay.
Just finished it the second time.
What got you into Cardone?
Bigger Pockets podcast.
Okay.
Heard his Louisiana accent. He was running all over those guys. They couldn't figure him out, and I was like, I like this guy. This guy's from my area. Now, I don't like everything about Grant Cardone. Nobody does. But what I do like about Grant is that he challenges me to not be the lazy version of me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listened to 10X Mentor, it was like, you know that Mio that you put in water?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to get some Mio energy and I'm going to put it in this water. I'll drink this water. I'll be good. It's like just taking the Mio and it's that straight. It's that concentrated version of Grant where he's just calling it's every message that he's ever had that I've seen in one bit or piece or here or there of following his content, listen to his content for 7 years, all just in one book where you're like, okay, this is a good business book. It's not a, it just calls you out. It just tells you you're just a lazy, worthless piece of shit. I mean, this is something that I learned about in that book. Grant had agreed to give a guy $60 million in 2008. So in 2008, he was going to partner with a guy on a business and write the check for $60 million to fund the business. Now, I never thought Grant, I knew he owned some real estate. I didn't know he was sitting $60 million liquid in 2008. Do you understand how crazy that is in my mind?
Yeah.
A dude that didn't have any social media, no following, and only sold sales training the hard way, on the phone, going to hotel conference rooms, like the hard way, had banked $60 million in the bank and was about to fund this deal, and he pulled out of it. And he tells about this guy. His name's Ralph something. He says, I'm not going to mention his last name, and then tells you his last name. It's pretty fucking funny. But anyways, it cost him $9 million when he pulled out of that deal in legal fees. $9 million to win the lawsuit to get out of that deal.
Wow.
So he was about to lose 60. Instead, he only lost 9. But at that moment, it woke him up to the fact that, you know what, I'm not big enough. I need to be bigger. I need to do more due diligence. But, I barely, this thing could have bankrupted me. Had I had to go through with this and give the rest of my money to this dude, I would have been bankrupt, and I wasn't big enough to do the things I wanted to do. And so he went all in 2008. And there's a bunch of those stories in there where you're just like, oh man, this is wild. His brother got killed in a crash. I think he was considering suicide. He doesn't say that. Grant was considering suicide. He talked to his brother. His brother got killed in an oil field accident. A lot of stuff in that book that you're like, man, I didn't know that about Grant. I never knew that about Grant. Like I followed a lot of his content. Never knew that.
You think 10X Mentor is better than 10X Rule?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So it's
think
his best book.
It's his best book that I've read. Now,
Yeah.
I've known Grant for a while. A lot of people probably, if they're not into Grant's content, they're going to get off that ride quick.
Yeah, listen, anybody who's an influencer, you got to take the wheat and you got to leave the chaff, right? If you're triggered by something, that's on you, man. Like, fuck off. Like, do you know how much free education is at our fingertips in these now?
Oh, I know.
I mean, bro, when I'm finishing up college is when I first got an email address. And now you got 9-10-year-old YouTubers banking because they got this supercomputer in the palm of their hand. We got all these people going around bitching and moaning about, I want my handout, I deserve this, give me my participation trophy, let's not keep score at the YMCA soccer game. And then it creates this just bullshit malaise that's going around where the biggest thing everybody's talking about is how fucking hot it is outside. Can't change that, make the best of it. And how much gas costs. Can't change that, make the fucking best of it, right?
I mean, I don't like, and that's the biggest thing that Grant never told. You know, if you got all of your expenses as low as you could get them, where would they be?
I mean, I think that's all about,
It's zero. If I got my revenue as high as it could go, where could I be?
Sky ass high.
So why am I going to focus on
The cost of the
the
steak.
cost? Like, that's right.
Go make some more cash.
And he talks about that in the book. In the book I just told you about, he lays that out just plain as day for you. He was at a dinner eating steak in New York with a guy. He was there to talk to him about money. Got time to pay the bill. Grant was going to pay the bill. And whenever the bill hit the table, he's thinking about it and he's worried about the bill, and he paused, and the guy picked it up, and he was a cowboy. You know what I mean? And he said, I got the bill. I can tell you're worried about it. And he goes, no, I got the bill. I'll get it. Grant's like, no, I'll get the bill. He's like, nah, bro, I got it. I can tell you're worried about it. Turns out you're all hat, no cattle. Pays the bill and throws it back down. And it's just that moment of hesitation where he knew, you know, the guy could look at it and knew that, you know, a $500 bill was doing it, and probably cost Grant the deal because he didn't have the confidence to grab it and throw his card out. You know what I mean? And I've thought back to that. I've thought back to that 100 times in my life where it's like, you know, I could have done bigger deals way sooner. Had the capability, had the knowledge, had the money at my disposal, but didn't want to ask for the money.
You weren't ready, though. That's one thing that some people in my life have told me recently, because I'm like, man,
I was ready.
And they just said, you weren't ready. Well, maybe you were.
There's
maybe
no kumbaya there.
No.
I was just a pussy.
Well, 100%.
All I had to do was
That's
pick
what
up the
I
phone
say.
and call somebody.
That's what I say.
And I would have done the deal.
Well, yeah.
Every deal I've ever done that's pushed me that far out of my
I
comfort
was a
zone.
pussy. Yeah.
I had to pick up the phone and call somebody and get the money. I give you an example. During COVID, we get a deal, 20 units, worth $1.8 million right now today. Selling it for $680,000, right? And I wanted to sell the deal to somebody else. I wanted to give it away for the sure thing of maybe $100,000. So the sure thing, $100,000, do it. And all of my private money was kind of tapped out. It was kind of boop, boop, boop. You know what I mean? I'd have had to pull some money together to get to 680. And the seller was being very difficult, wouldn't accept a finance contract, wouldn't accept a all cash contract, was going to make me get the proof of funds, a real proof of funds to him, which is hard to do. You know what I mean? It's like, who's got money sitting around? Well, one dude that had done loans for us for $60,000 trailer houses said in passing, hey, if you got something bigger, I want to look at it. That's it. That's all he ever said. Well, he's doing $60,000 loans on trailer houses. You know what I mean? I don't know when he said bigger. So I was like, let's get on the phone with him. So we called him up. We said, hey, we got this deal. Total project cost is going to be about $900. Do you want to, or do you know anybody that want to do this? He's like, I'll do the deal right now. He's like, well, here's the thing. We need a bank statement or something. This guy ain't going to sign the contract until somebody sends it over. He goes, here's my lawyer's number. Here's my banker's number. I'll send him an email, call them up. They'll send it over. Lawyer, banker, everybody wrote a letter, said, hey, here's this guy's balance, cash balance, get the deal locked up. He's getting cashed out $900 from the bank right now. So he went from a $60,000 trailer house to $900,000. What did my total private money pool go from? Went from basically, $60,000 plus whatever the other private money was to $900. 60 to 900. That's a big slug of private money. Well, then what do you do to all the rest of your lenders? Call them up and ask, hey, well, how much exactly do you have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've been
when
playing
you say
with
you want bigger
grand.
deals.
Yeah, you say you got $100,000 right now, but what else you got? Oh, I could do another 160. And that's how we grew that private money pool. But all it took was asking, because the track record was there. And we passed on 10 of those deals before we ever made the call. And the only reason why we made that call was because that guy had said that to us in passing. So we always
you
had
have
the
not
ability.
because you ask not. It
That's
says
right.
that in the good book, and it says, knock and the door will be opened unto you. Are you trying to assert that most people just aren't that assertive, and when it comes right down to it, maybe back then you just didn't want it enough for it to overcome the caution of, I don't know, that seems a little risky? I mean...
Nah, it was the instant gratification. It was just
I want that 100 now.
I want that 100 now.
Gotcha.
It was a current financial situation, not understanding we could get that 100 later.
Sure.
And by later, I mean 3 months later.
Sure.
Not, you know what I mean? It's just a deal where it's like, you know, how to structure the deal. But that, none of that being said, I'm still not doing big enough deals. We're going to drive to California in the next 3 weeks. Probably we got another Rangers game coming up on the 4th, August 4th. Probably before then. Hell, maybe next week. Maybe next week we're driving to California. We're going to San Francisco. Greatest city on earth, I hear. I don't know. I'm going to take a shit on the sidewalk just because I can.
Yeah, you can.
I'm going to shoplift something just because
you can. Get some real Chinese food in that Chinese district, though. Shit's got fish eyes in it and the whole 9 yards. You'll love it.
I'm going to drive my F-350 over the Golden Gate Bridge, take a piss on the other side. I'm going to take my daughter with me. She's going to, she rode to Miami with me last year. We're going to San Francisco this year, but we're going out there to door knock, to go, hey, do you want to sell those apartments you own? There's 300 units. We've been calling you. We almost got to talk to you a couple of times.
We're here now.
But your son won't let us talk to you. You want to get rid of those? Because we're here.
Good for you.
We're ready to do business. And your son won't let us talk to you on the phone.
Is that aggression in the face of this status quo fear, right? That relentless pursuit?
It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a pre-tax trip to San Francisco.
Ah.
Pre-tax trip to the Grand Canyon because you got to drive right by there to get there. Go through the Great Sequoias. It's pre-tax all the way till we get there and all the way back, right? Write the whole damn thing off. And it's
nice and cool in the Bay Area in the summer, too. It's cooler in the Bay Area in the summer than it is in the winter.
Whatever's going on there, we're going to see it. We're going to taste it. We're going to enjoy it with our own eyes. And the best thing about it is we're probably going to get in front of that guy. And what he's going to see on the other side of the table is people willing to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to, if he came up through adversity, which you know, if he's in his 90s, bro done seen some shit. And when he sees us, he's going to see the next generation that had what he had when he started. And he's going to offer us that hand up if he wants to sell it. If he wants to leave it to his kids, it's not going to happen. But when people see you suffer, when they see you do what they did, they're more willing to help you than if even if I did get on the phone with the guy, I might not have the success. But the reason why, let's say this trip cost $10,000. The reason why it's worth a week of my life of all the opportunity costs and everything else is because, one, my daughter will be a witness to it. She'll remember it the rest of her life. She will be there. 2, if it pans out and it goes, this will be a deal that we will make $15, $20 million on.
Good for you.
And after that, no matter what, that's indestructible wealth, even in today's economy. If you get that kind of whop,
that's a monster foundation. There's no doubt.
You beat that first battle. You got over the first hump.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Right? People think $1 million is what it takes. It's probably closer to $10 million if you want to live comfortably.
Oh, no doubt. What do you do in your own life with your own personal habits to suffer, to fight that propensity for comfort, to besides reading?
I just don't reward myself. To me, I just look at everybody else's situation all the time. So I'm talking to the high school kid that does our mowing on the way up here to make sure that he, you know what I mean? He got a $700 check last week. I was like, Jesus Christ, what'd you do? You know what I mean? First off, but I take that personally. I take his paycheck personally. I take everybody else's on our team's paycheck personally. And to me, I've worked for free for a long time. I'm commission only. I work for free every day, commission only. I only get paid for what I produce. And that's what I do to suffer. Like, it would be easy to feel entitled, feel like, oh man, we're doing all this stuff. But I like the fact that Braxton makes more money than me. You know what I mean? We're in the office together. Braxton generates more revenue than I do at this juncture from what he does every day. His daily activities generate revenue. You know what I mean? My daily activities generate revenue in a different way, but not in the, like, he is
not immediately, not today. Maybe.
Yeah, he makes that. He makes the bread today.
Do you state goals? Do you put goals out on social media? Do you write? Do you have a goal board or a vision board?
I write down my goals. I write down my goals, but it's just like I write them down. I need to. Grant's one of the most powerful things he talks about is writing down goals daily. I don't do it daily. Need to do it daily, but I write down my goals.
What's the power of that for you, writing those goals down?
It just makes you focus on what you got to do. It's like this.
And you got to look and go, I didn't even take a step toward that goal. If that's really a goal, I got to go.
It's like we put in our Monday meeting, right? And we add one piece of follow-up every single week. Those are two goals. The Monday meeting, like making a good Monday meeting, making an organized Monday meeting, doing a good job with my Monday meeting was a goal 3 weeks ago. So I was like, what do I want the meeting to cover? This, and this. Because it's really easy. We've been talking for 2 hours. I could sit here and talk 5 days. It's really easy to get in that Monday meeting and start bullshitting, just like we did this morning.
Yeah.
Which almost made me late. We were just bullshitting. But at least I cover our bullet points. That was a goal 3 weeks ago that's implemented. Add one piece of follow-up, automated follow-up to our marketing per week was a goal I wrote down 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I go in there with Braxton and we spitball over how to make follow-up. So this was, we bring Stephanie in. Stephanie works in our office and we're like, hey, Stephanie, is there a dude in your DMs that's been there for 4 years? And she's like, oh yeah, there's a guy. I'm like, what's he saying? And she's like, hey. And I'm like, all right, so hey don't work. What could he say to you today that would get a response? And she's like, I don't know. And then it's like,
let me fly you to Ibiza.
Maybe.
Right now. Bam. Okay.
Maybe. So we were like, would a dick pic work? Would this work?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what would make you respond to him today?
Sure.
And she's like, well, I don't really know why he's messaging me. And then Braxton goes, what if he said, hey, you got time to jump on a call? She's like, well, yeah, that might be, I would be curious about why you might want to talk to me. And I'm like, that's it. That's our follow-up. That is what we will automate to where if they call in to sell us a house, they will get that message text to them twice on the first week, once a week after that for 2 months.
Right.
And then once every 2 weeks for 12 months, and then once a month for the 12 months after that.
Nice.
The system will not stop sending
until you get a fuck off.
Until they opt out.
Right.
And they will have to opt out. But if they call in off of a mailer, we are missing too many of those because we get so busy with the ones that we're having success on that we forget the ones that were almost there. And then if we text them that and they respond, yeah, I'll jump on a call, then you get on the call with them and start talking about the property again.
Do you think fatherhood changed you? Fatherhood brought this I'm not settling for what I can just get. I'm going to strive. Or has that always been in there since the powerlifting championship days?
I've spent a lot of days in an RV thinking about why you're not satisfied. I just think I'm not satisfied because when you get satisfied, a lot of things happen to you in life. When you feel entitled, when you become, your ego starts doing more than you do. You know what I mean? Like in your own head, you get this self-inflated, whatever, just crippling. It's just nonsense. You just become a toxic person.
That's why retired people who just mail it in die so fast.
Think about what retiring means for everything else on planet Earth other than a human.
Right.
You retire a fucking Mazda.
Yep.
That bitch is getting torn apart at the
a racehorse turns into glue.
But humans, for some reason, that's it. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be retired. For me, I looked at it and I was like, I cannot, like, whatever happens today, I'm a lazy individual. I'm the laziest person you'll ever meet. So I want to make the job the easiest and get there to the fastest response. You know what I mean? I will jump in there and do the work that I got to do. But overall, I want to figure out the fastest way to do it, who's best at doing it, and get them on it. That's me because I'm lazy. You know what I mean? But if I got to get in there and do it every day for the next 6 weeks, I'll get in there and do it every day for the 6 weeks. It won't bother me. If I got to train my own replacement, if I got to train your replacement, if I got to train anybody's replacement, I'll just bite that bullet and do it. But I'm not going to get satisfied. I'm not going to get to a point to where I look up and I'm like, man, this is it. My kids, as far as fatherhood goes, Emery, I mean, I cannot describe the level of like, like it's like I don't want to die driving too fast on an icy road because I got a daughter. That's like the kids, the way that it changes. You're like, you know what? Seatbelt every time, both hands on the wheel. It's icy, 4-wheel drive.
Sure.
I'll put it in 4-wheel drive when it's raining now. I'm like, to hell with it.
Yeah.
These things are good. You know what I mean? It's that kind of stuff with the kids. But as far as like what I wanted to do or how I wanted to do it, I just want to spend time with my kids. The more I get to know Emery as she's evolving as a human and growing, and this wonderful 8-year-old little person that, just full of bright ideas. I think she was hitting on homie's girlfriend last night at the Rangers game. Just, it's like, this is random. Like, she finds like the prettiest girl in the room and just sucks up to her, But that I just love getting to know her. I love having conversation with her. I love the possibility of her potential, you know what I mean? And her realizing her potential. I love all that. But as far as like succeeding, my own success or failure doesn't play into that. I feel successful that day if I got to hang out with her for,
Sure.
A couple hours, if I got to show her some things, whenever I get to go and we stand in front of the sequoia tree and her curiosity.
Have you ever been out there?
I haven't.
Oh,
her curiosity gets to going, and now she wants to read about it. She wants to learn more about it.
You should go north for a minute, for a day or two into Oregon. Get up into Cannon Beach and then come back. You'll love it, man.
Dude,
the lops, there's these huge rabbits with huge ears. They're just everywhere. Cannon Beach is amazing. It's awesome.
And that's the thing, like being able to set that schedule and have that week.
There you go.
That's more of it. Like the success and failure and how it measures up. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I got a deal that I love this deal when I loved it. I loved it. And it's gonna make $300,000 in my mind. And it's one deal, and it's gonna be a big one, $300,000. And it's land though. Travis County, it's a good prop. Guy got a little flaky on me. And we got it closed, and we begged, borrowed, and stealed to get the money together to close it. And now today he's supposed to close, but he ain't going to show up. He's going to back out of the deal. And 2 weeks ago, that was devastating, right? The success and failure. You ask, how much does it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a loss on the scoreboard, I guess.
Yeah. It's a big chunk of money, right?
Yep.
But I'm also like, you know what? The certainty is that if I had got that, I would have to go down there and deal with it. It's going to take up a lot of time. Like, it's like, how does my mind turn this around?
On to the next. Silver lining.
To where it's like, on to the next. Those successes and failures the kids don't play into that. You know what I mean? Like Emery, like I'm not, like I don't feel like I missed out on something for her. But what I do feel like is whenever we don't get to go to the trip that may or may not work out for us on the real estate side of things to California this summer, then I'll feel like a failure. You know what I mean? Like I've got to get that in. Because that's what we did it a lot more when she was smaller, all over Texas, but she don't like it anymore. Yeah, I'm having to force her to do this.
Oh, she's gonna love it out there, man. The Pacific Ocean is majestic. If somebody at Quick Trip, when you're going to fill the F-350 up, starts bitching and moaning about that gas price, and you had the opportunity to say something to them, what would you say to them?
I'd say quit focusing on expenses and focus on revenue.
Bam.
I say it every day. Every day I'm telling that to somebody. I'm like, why do you care about what something costs?
Yeah. Shit you can't control.
Like the gurus are going to make a lot of money in the next couple of years.
Right.
Because people are going to be looking for answers, and they're going to find these dudes on the internet. They're going to promise them quick riches.
6-minute abs, bro.
Yeah, they're going to get it. I mean, they're going to hit a lick the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. And the reason why I can't do it, is because you just asked me that. And I've told thousands of people over and over and over again, the easiest way to start in this business. Okay. And zero of them, almost zero, only a handful have ever taken the advice.
What is the advice?
The advice is go find a deal. Just go find a deal.
So knock doors, make
knock
calls.
Doors. Find a property that somebody will sell at a price that y'all can agree on and bring it to somebody that knows, and they will grab your hand from there and walk you through the rest of the deal.
Yeah.
And then if that one don't work out, go find another one.
Yep.
But that's where you start looking. But they want the easy button because they're like, well, what do I call or text? You get in your car, you drive, you put on your favorite music, and you find a house and you knock on the door, you leave a letter in the mailbox. I can break it down because that's the only way I found deals for years.
Well, it sounds like the lowest common denominator to that advice is just simple fucking effort.
Any amount of effort. I'm like, you could cold call somebody every day and fart in the phone. And eventually somebody's going to go, what? Do you want to sell I want to sell my house. And you'd have more luck with that than if you don't get on the phone. But people don't want to talk to other people and they want the easy button. So what they end up doing, and this is the frustrating part for me, they like, I've had people that I offer a $1,500 anything or $1,000 or $100, $100 day. One day, come in for $100 and we are going to bust your list up. We're not going to bust my list up. We're going to bust your list up in the class. You're going to do your list. We're all going to do the shit you're working on right now. And we're going to negotiate it to the best of our ability. And we're going to try to get you a deal for $100. We've done stuff like that. And they're like, I can't make sense of the 100, right? Because I don't think the value's there because they see the 100 and then they go pay somebody else $7,500, right? And then they come pay the 100 and then they tell me that the guy that charged them $7,500 ripped them off because they got more for the 100 than they did the $7,500.
Yep.
And the only thing I'm thinking is you're the only person ripping yourself off.
Yeah.
Like you're ripping yourself off from start to fucking finish because you paid $7,500, got the same information you would have got for 100, and you've done nothing with it no matter the price point.
So you wouldn't consider yourself or title yourself or categorize yourself as a guru then,
no,
Corey?
I will be.
Yeah.
No, look, I'm not. Y'all take that soundbite, put it everywhere. I don't give a fuck. When people, the people that are selling education right now do not have enough real estate experience to really sell it at a high level. Logan Bentley Fulmer is somebody that I trust and love. He's probably most experienced person on planet Earth. Can help you close $1 million deals, $1 million deals, $300,000 deals, $500,000 deals. He's closed. He knows his shit. He just put out a program. It's $10,000 and then like $1,500 a month. Okay. And I cannot wait to hear his feedback. And that just has nothing to do with the people that signed up. Okay. And see how his students do with his teaching of basically like holding their hand and walking them through the process. I cannot wait to hear his feedback. And that'll be one-on-one. I won't share it with nobody. But I want to know if he sees the same thing because I've never done that for $10,000 and I've never done it for $10,000 and $1,500 a month, but I've done it for free. And I've not had any results at the free price point. And I'm not mad at the people that came into my life and I tried to help for free. I'm not mad at them at all. They showed me a very valuable lesson. Like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Some people want it. Some people want it easy. Some people want it hard. Some people want it all over the place. But if you're babysitting them all day, who's going to babysit your business?
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'm just not at a point yet where my business doesn't need me. And even when I get to that point where my business doesn't need me, will I really want to go mess around?
Yeah, dicker with people who you have to convince to work hard and put forth a bit of effort. Yeah,
like we put together the baseball game. Great theory. You go to a Rangers game, you're going to spend $250. We got a $250 ticket August 4th. We got another one in September. People don't take advantage of it. In the room at the Astros game was $7 million of our private capital.
Wow.
Our lenders in the room.
Amazing.
We didn't sell one ticket to that game.
Really?
Not one ticket was sold.
the opportunity to network and to rub shoulders and elbows. Because you said at the beginning, I said, why do most people not know how money works? And you said, well, they just don't think they have access. They don't get around that type of money.
They were in the room. They were in the room, and not one person bought a ticket. The attorneys there, we had 4 or 5 different bankers in there.
Crazy.
$7 million in private capital represented, talking, rubbing elbows. Not one person bought a ticket. So you know who got to experience that? The other lenders, the other people, our friends, our family got to experience that, but not one person came from the outside and paid the money. Yesterday's game had $1,000 gate. $1,000 gate. That's what people paid. So we pay about $10,000 to put those on. $1,000 worth of tickets sold, okay? And the bankers and the lawyers and everybody were out of town that day, but we invited a bunch of people. You know, we're just like, at the end of the day, we're just like, hey, come on. We haven't sold any tickets. We didn't promote it. We're not, you know, it takes a lot of time to promote something like that. It takes a lot of time to get that information out there, which is time is money, and I just forgot about it. It just showed up on us. I was like, dude, we got to go. Like, I haven't promoted it, whatever. The funniest part about it was, there was a guy that I talked to, hadn't seen him in a while, and he was asking me something about private money and wrappable private money and all that. And then this one deal, a guy shows up, and that's the only kind of money he wants to loan out is wrappable private money. He wants to do the owner finance thing, and we don't do that. And those two people would have got to know each other, but the one that said he was coming didn't come, and the other guy showed up, and you know, he wants to loan money on owner finance. That's what he wants to do because he feels safer with it. He thinks an owner finance buyer will take better care of the asset if he has to take it back. I'm like, whatever, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So viewers, listeners, they want to connect with you because they want in on your expertise, or they have a deal and they want to bring you a deal and they want to connect with you. How can they get in touch with you via email?
Oh, email? Corey, Corey, at GBT, Greg, Bob, Tom, PM, PeterMichael.com.
Right on.
It's the easiest one.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your time. Awesome to meet you. We got to do this again.
Can I put my Tinder out there?
Absolutely.
No, yeah. I don't have a Tinder. I got kicked off of Tinder for trying to buy houses.
Throw your Bumble in there while we're at it.
You know,
yeah, you can't. You know what? You can't prospect on those. I've got a guy works for me who frequents the Grinder, and he got kicked off of there for looking for door knockers for us. So they don't take kindly to that shit, man.
No, they do. They kick you off. This is one of the things that I will say. This is the one piece of advice that I can give that if people are really worried about it. So too many times if you're out looking at a deal or looking at a prospect or looking at something else, you don't have any sort of agreement on price or any of that, right? So you're trying to sell a job, right?
Right.
If you come to me and you give me a price, you say, I want $10,000 to do this job. Right.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I think I should get it done for $8,000.
Yep.
Okay. Should you focus more time on me or the person that agrees to the $10,000?
The agree to the $10,000 is my advice.
Every single time. So why do people hide price till the last minute?
I don't know, because it's such a waste of time, and it gives a lot of people that bad feeling, that bad taste right out of the gate. And if you're trying to create a mutually beneficial, like, hey, I'm going to help you out of a tight spot, this is the amount.
Mm-hmm.
If they're down and they're ready to roll, so you use Tinder. Yeah. Like, just keep swiping, man. Just keep going.
He got it. He nailed it. He nailed it from here. So I'm like, it's same
you got to
thing
play the numbers.
It's same thing in house buying. Like when we get on the phone with a prospect, we make our offer right off the bat.
That's awesome.
And we make it low. That way, if they're in agreement with our low offer, we're spending time with those people, not people that think their house worth $1 million and we can only pay $100,000.
That takes something from you, though, that some people don't have, which is your numbers.
I don't need to know my numbers.
Well, but you give them that low number. You know that's going to work for you, though.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. I know nothing.
Clear that up.
I'm brand new.
Okay, brand new.
I don't know what
you're going low number, though.
Offer them $10,000 and see what they respond, because all they're going to respond with is yes
or no.
No.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe.
Right.
So what's the response? How much?
Yeah.
Least I'll take $15,000.
Okay.
And you don't know what it's worth. But
right.
now you have an agreement on price. You can take that to the marketplace.
So yes, okay, I see what you mean. And a lot of times, I don't want to negotiate against myself. Contracting is a little bit different than real estate prospecting just because I know what the labor is going to cost, what the material is going to cost, but at least it gets the ball rolling if you're hitting them with, this is my number, and then you do get a yes, no, or maybe. I can work with maybe. I can work with yes, and then that no just lets me know it's time to swipe right.
Yeah, that's it. Because that's what the Tinder, dude.
Absolutely.
It's like you sit there and read an entire profile and you're going to marry a chick. You swipe on her and she never swipes on you.
Right.
You have nothing.
Yep.
Or you just
the time waste. Yeah.
And then the ones that swipe on you, you're like, oh, okay, I can make I can make $1 with this.
Yes.
You know what
100%.
I mean? So that's my dating app scenario. Most people don't understand it, but you understood it. See, I guess you don't. You single? No. Kids? No.
I mean, this is a family show. I don't have kids,
but
no.
Married.
This is absolutely. I actually have a few wives. Mormon dude. So I get the no drinking and stuff. I like that.
Oh,
that's where I'm at.
I don't drink
either.
So,
Absolutely. I try not to drink either. I do other stuff, but the drinking, man, makes me unproductive and unpredictable, and it just doesn't make my life better.
You know, I don't. When it comes to the drinking, it's not. I don't hate it. I don't like it. It's just I'm never in those spots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you're like, hey, come to the bar. I'm like, yeah, I might.
Yeah.
You won't see me there.
Yeah.
I won't show up.
What are those dates for the Rangers thing? The 4th of August.
August 4th. I don't know the next one.
Okay.
And that's
sometime
why I'm bad
in
at
September.
That's why I'm bad at this.
Oh, I don't think you're bad at it, man. I think you're out there making shit happen. I mean, if you had all your ducks in a row about your events, I don't think you would have a bunch of deals going.
No, but at the same time, like, this is kind of, this is like sadness on my part. But at the same time, it's like, look, I give a lot to the community. When I offer you a pre-tax baseball game, take advantage. I don't have to sell that.
Yep.
Because you want to know why? I can ask you to come for free. You're right. I can say, hey, come for free, and I'm going to get the same benefit out of it.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, we don't never make enough on that for it to be worth our time either one way or another.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I want you to pay. I want you to show up. I want you to support what we got going on because it's mutually beneficial. When I ask the people that come for free are worth meeting. Those are the ones that you want to get in there and talk to about your deal, that you want free legal advice. The attorney that wins our lawsuits for us is in there the whole time. You could just sit next to them the whole time and get free legal advice.
You want to talk about bringing value to the table, man. That's pretty awesome that you do that.
Yeah,
that's rad.
Like you just come out, you meet the people that are doing what you want to do in life. And our lawyer is going to be a private money lender.
That's what he's working towards.
No, it's always working towards, but the moment you ask him for some money, he'll probably loan it to you.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
I do.
You have an opportunity to close. Our bankers, when we were at our last deal, we told our bankers, our CPA was there, told our bankers, said, hey, look, the personal return of Jacob is holding back all these refinances, and interest rates go up every single month. This is costing us money. And since there's 4 bankers standing there and they all want the business, what do you think they all said?
Call this CPA.
No, we can get it done without the personal return. We just need the business returns.
Hell yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Because none of them going to say, hey, this and that. Like, we've been waiting on this. Like, we want to submit for these refis. So we got $2.5 million worth of refis agreed upon in principle at the Rangers event.
And, people see loans, and most of them see it through the lens of getting a conventional to buy my primary residence, and they don't understand what you explained in depth earlier, that the banks are literally looking for opportunities to lend this money out. They have to get it out.
They have to get it out. When they start taking assets back, when they have more assets on their book than they do money, then they'll be in a bond. Yep. And then you know what they need? Somebody to take the assets.
Yep. And rent them out.
Yep. They need somebody to operate the assets for them. They do not want the assets on their book. If you came to our Rangers event and made friends with our bankers, they would give you the opportunity to buy. At the Rangers game, guy told me, he's like, this particular commercial property, we don't have any interest in it, is currently in default. You think that happens in his office?
Probably not.
No, we don't have any interest in that. But he's like, who do you know? And I'm like, oh, there's people in here.
Oh yeah.
Just tell enough people. You know what I mean? He's like, well, I don't want to be disparaging towards the deal. And I'm like, all right, I will run it around like I found it.
Sure.
You got it. But
you're one meeting away, man. You're one phone call away.
And I have no idea what's going on with that. I don't know what their situation is, but I do know this. That bank, if it ends up with that asset, then I'll have a shot at it.
Oh, there you go.
Because at that moment in time, it's a dead asset on their book that's going to keep them back in their regulations. Like
Yeah.
regulatory wise, they don't want that on their books. So they
Gotcha.
got to get it out, and that's when I'll want it.
That makes sense.
I don't want it beforehand while the guy still thinks there's money in it. You know what I mean? I'm
Absolutely.
like, you couldn't operate it. I might be able to, but I don't want what you think it's worth. I want what you owe to the bank.
Absolutely. Brother, I appreciate you, man.
No problem.
Thank you for your time. Well, that was rad. I knew it would be. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Corey is very inspiring. Man, I need to up my game when it comes to my book reading. That's for damn sure. Awesome story. You guys should reach out to Corey. Roughneck to Real Estate on Instagram. Reach out to the guy. He's got an abundance mindset. He's all about educating people and helping other people get to where they want to be. He's made a bunch of mistakes like he talked about on the podcast today, and he wants to help you avoid those mistakes and better your life. Fuck your excuses. I love that. I hope you like the podcast as much as I do. I really enjoy sitting down, having a long-form conversation with somebody without the damn phone going off. It's very enjoyable to me. I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. You can always hit me on Instagram at Jess from the Northwest. If you've got somebody who you think would make a great guest for the JMP, definitely connect me. I love talking to interesting people who live a do-it-yourself life and say fuck you to fear. See you guys next time.